Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 27, noes 13.
Ayes 27, noes 13. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 837, a bill to amend the Code of Virginia by adding a section numbered 55-59.5 relating to foreclosure, use of false record, document, or statement. Reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice with a substitute.
Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd move that we adopt the committee substitute.
Question is, shall the committee substitute be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is adopted. The senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to the third reading.
Question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading. The senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we suspend the rules and dispense with the constitutional third reading.
Question is, shall the rules be suspended and the third constitutional reading of Senate Bill 837 be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. The motion is agreed to. The senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill pass and speak to the measure.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, this is the first of two foreclosure bills I'll be bringing before you. They're the only two remaining bills, I believe, in this body of several that were filed. And I think this is actually the comparatively less controversial one, but I guess I'll find out in a couple minutes. This bill stands for a very simple proposition, that the use of a fraudulent or falsified document for purposes of obtaining a foreclosure is unlawful in Virginia, and that there is a remedy in such situation. You've probably seen lots of stories or heard stories about robo-signers and foreclosure mills and activities of that sort that dealt with the mass production of foreclosure documents or documents that are used in foreclosure that were not accurate, were not truthful, and were made for ulterior purposes. There's been lots of representations in committee that Virginia banks were not involved in those activities. I take those at face value, and frankly, whether or not this statute will be used, I guess, remains to be seen. One thing I would draw to the attention of all the attorneys and law bodies is this only penalizes a knowing use of a fraudulent document. So those who are trial attorneys can tell you how hard that is to prove before a fact finder, but that is part of the statute, and so therefore it's a very high threshold. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd simply say that this is a targeted remedy. As you probably know, financial services right now are exempted from our Virginia Consumer Protection Act, and this would essentially, again, give a remedy in this unique situation. And with that, I move the bill pass.
Thank you, Senator. Question is, shall the bill pass? All in favor of the motion, the senior senator from Henrico, Senator Stosh.
President, would the gentleman rise for a question?
Will the senator from Fairfax City rise for a question?
Yes, I rise.
Senior senator from Henrico, Senator Stosh.
Mr. President, this is my first encounter with the bill, so I may be misinterpreting it, but I noticed on line 15 there's appropriate equitable relief and compensatory damages, but then it goes on to talk about punitive damages. In what instance would you envision, once a person's been made whole equitably, that there might be punitive damages?
See, Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Well, I would answer the gentleman, in any civil cause of action right now in Virginia where you can prove compensatory damages and willful and malicious conduct on behalf of the offending party, you have the opportunity for punitive damages. So in that respect, this civil cause of action would be no different than any other civil cause of action where you can show compensatory damages plus malice aforethought.
Senior senator from Henrico, Senator Stosh.
Mr. President, I think my question is, how do you measure, in an instance when an individual has been restored equitably, how do you measure in this particular case in a foreclosure added damages in the form of punitive damages?
Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Well, I'd answer the gentleman. That's always a question for the fact finder. We have a cap of $350,000 for punitive damages right now in our law. But let's say, for example, you have a situation where you have somebody that fabricates documents in order to foreclose on a property, and they take title to the property, and the person that's put out on the street subsequently files a civil action and is able to show that they were a victim of fraud and is able to get back into their house. And let's say they were able to capture some type of compensatory damage. Maybe they had to rent a U-Haul, maybe they had to get temporary housing or some other thing that was a compensatory damage. But I think the gentleman would agree with me that those few $1,000s don't really represent the harm that was committed by someone, again, that used false documents to put somebody out on the street. And that might be the type of situation where a punitive remedy, again, where there's malice aforethought, would be appropriate, just as in any other civil action.
Senior Senator from Henrico, Senator Stosh.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the gentleman yield for a question, please?
Will the Senator from Fairfax City yield for a question?
I yield.
Senator yields. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, my first question would be is that this bill deals with the use of false documents in a foreclosure proceeding. Is that correct?
Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Yes, sir.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, my next question would be, then is false document, is that synonymous with a fraudulent misrepresentation?
Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
I would answer the gentleman. It probably goes to really the knowledge of the person that used that document. If you use a document you know to be false in order to procure a foreclosure, then the answer would be yes. If it's inadvertent, then the answer would be no.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, then following up on the response to that, as I read on line 11, any person who knowingly makes, and based on your explanation, using the predicate knowing, would that not be synonymous with misrepresentation in this particular bill?
Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
In this particular instance, I guess that would be the case.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, my next question would be, is there not an existing common law right of action, right of civil action for fraud in the absence of embedding it statutorily in the Code of Virginia?
Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
I would answer the gentleman. This issue was brought up both in subcommittee and committee, and I would simply say if that's the case, we should get rid of our Virginia Consumer Protection Act because that has the exact same statutory protection. Yes, there is common law fraud, but in today's economy, you have situations where, again, people that are in this type of transaction, it's very hard to go in and prove all the 5 fingers of fraud, again, where you don't have face-to-face contact with the person that's actually producing these documents. They're at some foreclosure shop, which could be 1,000 miles away.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, I would further inquire that this is under Title 55, which is dealing with real estate, as opposed under the Virginia Consumer Protection Law, which does create independent statutory causes of action, but also embeds in it treble damages and recovery of fees, does it not?
Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
I would answer the gentleman, this is not in the Consumer Protection Act, so actually the remedy here is lesser than you get under the VCPA, but it's the best I can do. I apologize, I can't do better.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, my next question would be dropping down to lines 14 and 15. It provides in there for damages arising, but the injured party shall be entitled to appropriate equitable relief. Is there not an existing common law cause of action for equitable relief in the instance where there's potentially a fraudulent abuse?
Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
I would say to the gentleman, that's a matter of some disputes. I mean, there's no statute on that. I've seen judges who occasionally will give an injunction in this type of situation. I'll see other times that it doesn't happen. Obviously, the purpose of having a statute is to make it clear.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Question is, shall the bill pass? All in favor of the motion will record the votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 25, noes 14.
Ayes 25, noes 14. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 838, a bill to amend and reenact 55-58.2 and 55-66.01 of the Code of Virginia relating to a requirement for recordation of assignments of debts secured by real estate fee. Reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice.
Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask that I'd ask that the bill be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading. Senator from